Welcome to Marriage Talk Season 4. Join us as we discuss the differences between men and women. We are privileged to host Pastor Tim and Pastor Judy. And for the very first time on Marriage Talks, Pastor Bonnie and Pastor Geraldine, and our very own Pastor Peter and Pauline Kamau. This is Marriage Talks, where our marriages must come to a rest.
So,
Yeah. And I think that's very critical because that's when hopelessness steps in.
Yeah.
When we think, this person, he will always be like this.
Yeah.
Because when we're talking about right now, we're talking about 30 years of living together.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of experience that some of them, we have gone through, we have burned fingers, we have cried, all those kind of things.
Yeah.
So where we are is not where we used to be.
Oh, yes.
And we have grown. But
Yeah.
when somebody thinks this is it, he will never move on, he will never be good progress. That's when hopelessness steps in. And one of the things before we go to this, because I think also, just one thing, and then I'll go back to Pastor Bonnie, what he was asking. Most of the reason why we disrespect is because of the weakness associated with the person. That's where, because when we started, we used to respect each other. But the more closer we became, we learned some things that we don't like, and now we are associating this person not with the strength, but with the weaknesses. You get what I'm saying? And it's no one. When we talk about Jacob, coming from Jacob now to Israel, it was not a one-over thing. It was a struggle. There's a struggle with whom I used to be and whom I'm becoming. And at that time, it's not the time to bash somebody down. It's the time to become a cheerleader who help that person to come up, to become.
And also a lot of patience is required.
Yes.
And those are the steps that Pastor Bonnie is saying. So what are the practical things that we can put in place? I hear you saying that from Jacob to become Israel, a lot of patience.
I think one of the things we need, from my point of view, we have to acknowledge it, because what you don't acknowledge, you will never be able to address it.
Yeah, if you, for example, like now, to be honest with you, what has kept us going? And if you ask me what changed, is what I did is I started changing my behavior. And my behavior meaning that, because all of us have their weaknesses, and most of the time we do amplify the weakness of the other person and forgetting also your weakness. And if whatever you amplify, what you see, you keep on focusing, is what grow. So my focus was on her weakness as opposed to her strength. And how I started doing is that I started counting or focusing on the strength of my wife, or other things that she's good at. And actually I realized some of the few things that maybe I'm focusing on, they are very, very minute. So it is me who started changing.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's Pastor, what I'm hearing you saying, you acknowledged your own weaknesses in the whole scenario, and you started dealing with them. That's why you're saying you changed your behavior.
Maybe I'm not very, very old, but what I know is that you cannot change it. I'm telling you cannot change.
That's very true.
And when you realize you cannot change anybody, so you have to come up with a mechanism of, number one, changing you, how you perceive things. Because, for example, you said about perfectionism. And maybe you may try as much as you can to make this person perfectionist like you. Could it be possible it's not you are lowering your standard, but can you change the way you see things? So address you before even you address it.
Even Pastor Bonnie, probably you could be, because even that perfectionist probably is coming from a point of weakness you have never been able to address. So most of the time we are dealing with symptoms actually when the big and the source of the problem have ever been addressed. And we really need to be candid enough to address our own issues and even asking, if at all there's something that I'm holding so strongly, where is it coming from? Because we've been dealing here with symptoms and we misdiagnose the problem all the time. We are dealing with the things on the surface when actually the root core is not even him or her, it is me. And until I address that issue, we always have an overflow, which we are trying to mitigate, and it's not getting anywhere.
I think also the book of Revelation, when Jesus is addressing the church of Ephesus, which was doing all these good works but had slowly by slowly drifted away, he gives them an exhortation and says to them, go back to your first love. Go back to the first things. I think one of the other things that is going to help us is to intentionally go back to the first times when it used to be easy to acknowledge and recognize that person is valuable to you. Because when we start off, we are so much in love that we cannot see anything else. So over time, what changes? And I think it behooves us to intentionally go back and remind ourselves, what was it that initially made me love this person? Could it be that I've become too busy and I've forgotten to do the simple things? Because we major on the big things, but we forget the simple software things, like intentionally wanting to show that person that you care about them, you appreciate them, you acknowledge them, and in so doing, you bring back the respect.
And I think that's a good place to start, especially for those who are struggling at the moment. Because when you got together, there was that which attracted you, what you loved about this man. You know, go back and remind yourself, okay, why did I love him? You know, over the years, what have I loved about him? Is it the way he takes care of the children? Is it the way he works hard for the sake of the family? You know, and first of all, focus on those things, and maybe even as you focus on them, that list will grow longer and longer and longer. And now his weaknesses will look.
And actually, it's important to verbalize. Because we talked about acknowledging, appreciating, acknowledging, accepting, and then appreciating. Because you may acknowledge and accept, but fail to verbalize it.
But also maybe actually that's our biggest weakness, especially for men, whereby they may have a feeling, but they're not verbalizing their feeling, or even what they see, what is positive. Sometimes most men are not vocal, and I think maybe this is something that somebody has to learn.
Be very intentional about it.
Be very intentional. Just like if you go for an examination or for a job interview, there are all those things, ethics that you're supposed to bring on board for you to make sure that you pass your the test or the interview. So we have to be intentional. And maybe this is one side that I had to learn personally. Don't ask me where I was raised. This was not something that came naturally. Like keep on saying how you feel about somebody. But I've learned it right now, and I think I'm doing well.
And I think just to add on that, a lack of verbalizing tends to become what we call passive aggressive, because there is an issue, there's a secret in the family, which is the issue that now I personally am dealing with, but I'm refusing or failing to put it on the table so that we can talk about it. So to us, it becomes a family secret. And every family secret builds or grows into becoming something more harmful. So what we are saying here, failure to address or put it on the table, we are procrastinating, or we are creating a negative attitude. Because every time you have passive aggression, you create an attitude in the room or in the home, and that itself becomes the root of the problem, a secondary problem, having not addressed even the primary the primary issue, which could be maybe there was shame that came as a point of disrespect because of something you did to your husband. So if I fail to accept that I disrespected you because of how I felt you treated me. You see, I haven't talked about it. So I keep it as a secret, but I'm not saying it. So failure to say it or failure to talk about it with you doesn't create an opportunity for you to come into a conversation with me and you know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
So I think there's been a lot of family secrets that are not addressed on the table, which are now becoming the what is it called? The root cause of a lack of breakdown in communication. Yeah.
It's always, contention is always brewing.
Yes.
And that's what we've always said from season 1 of Marriage Talks. Anything you sweep under the carpet, anything you hide, anything you don't discuss, anything you don't bring to the table, it has the potential to grow and become a monster. And then it gets out of hand. And now when it comes now to rescuing it, we just can't use a little plaster or a band-aid. Now it needs bandages upon bandages. It needs a lot of damage control, a lot of surgery, to be done to get the root,
And shame is a big thing.
Yeah.
So to add to what you're asking, how then do we help somebody who is out there who has disrespected their husband or their wife? Is to know that shame is a big thing and it's hard to deal with. But as long as we keep it undercover, it will never bring us to a place where we can be able to resolve. So what we are saying is that however much you have disrespected, however bad or ugly it may look like, be ready to face that shame with the person that you love.
Without condemnation.
And the other person gives you the leeway to just experience that shame and care for you. Because it is hard. It is when I've disrespected someone. And then you're coming to acknowledge, yes, I sinned against you, I did this to you.
I think most importantly, what I hear you saying, and I think I've observed this all the time, is that we must always remember this is teamwork. So everything you do, everything you say, not only makes you look, it doesn't just, because sometimes we say things because we want to look good by diminishing others. What we don't know is that in marriage, everything you do and say either appreciates or depreciates who you are, because the two become one. And part of that, one of the biggest challenges couples have faced is what husbands or wives say about their spouses in public. And I've observed for the years we've been married, my wife has never said anything negative about me. All she's ever said has been positive. And that has helped me, not just me as a person and my ego, but it has also helped me to stay positive in the fact that she believes in me. And for husbands, it is very important to know that your wife and your closest friend believes in you and speaks well of you. And I think for couples that are listening, it is very important to remember we are a team and we are working to the success of this team.
So what I hear us saying here,
I think also something I just want to throw in here is that also I would like also to look into the circles of the friend whom I have, because most probably some of these things that you have said there a bit earlier, some of these influence come in a very subtle way. In a very, very subtle way. We sit down with somebody who have their own perception about their marriage, about their husband. They have just thrown a word. A word now continue to get bigger and bigger, and these are the people I'm associating myself with. You cannot address which you don't identify, and you cannot identify until you unpack the problem where it's coming from. So I think that is one of the greatest things. And see who are in the circles. Who are my friends? Are they contributors? Are they in the right place? Am I giving them an access which they have not obtained? There's a way that you can allow somebody into your life and they have not obtained that space. And that's why we need to know even where and where to put friends. There are people who are just acquaintances. There are people who are just far off. But when you're coming in a circle that I'm listening to what I'm saying, I'm need to vet who you are. What are you for? What is your marriage? There are people right now, if at all we are dealing with a marriage issue here, and somebody is struggling with the marriage, I'm not saying don't have that a friend, but she should be a distant friend. You get what I'm saying? Because right now I'm not in a space where this person is contributing positively to my relationship. And I need help and she needs help. And the other thing probably I'll just say one thing. Also, what I also find, especially as we were talking about our communication, how is our tone? How do I add my story? You get what I'm saying? Because there are some people when they just feel it and then you drop something, and then it destroys. You get what I'm saying? Some kind of things you cannot be able to change until you control. And one of the greatest damage, as the Bible says, the book of James, is our tongue. Our tongue, our tone, our expression. You get what I'm saying? Our body language, all those kind of things. So probably to me, those are one of the key factors, especially if you want to turn the ship.
But also maybe to add, because we are all looking for restoration in a relationship, whether it is in the verge of collapse, whether it is totally destroy or messed up. Maybe there's somebody who might ask, where do I start? Maybe I already told people about my husband. I've already messed, but I still want to be in this marriage. How can we avoid that person? Maybe one of the things maybe that person need to know is that the Bible says that if you confess your sin, God is faithful and just to forgive us and cleanse us from all our unrighteousness. Then also the Bible says confess your sin to one another and you may be healed. And I believe if there's somebody maybe who's watching today and they're wondering, I've already, actually all that you've discussed, I've done that, but I still want to keep my marriage. I see the key thing is that honest repentance, asking God for forgiveness.
Oh, yes.
Whether you did it because you are pushed in that place to do it, or whichever circumstances you might find yourself in. I think that place of repentance is asking for forgiveness. And because sometimes people ask for forgiveness just for they are looking for just for peace.
Yeah, they want to pacify.
To pacify the matter. So they ask, forgive me, but it's not from the heart. And because you're talking from a biblical perspective here, if you're honest enough, even before God, if you're honest enough and ask for forgiveness, God will also turn that other person's life. And no matter, even if you have maybe discussed about your husband or your wife, God has a way of healing. Because He's not God does not advocate for divorce. So if He does not advocate for it, and you have repented and you have asked forgiveness, genuine forgiveness, I believe there's a way God even can change the way people perceive your husband because of what you see. So the key thing here is that it's good to let people know that it's not all lost. There's a way back. Because sometimes we may feel, all that you have shared here is that you're not supposed to share things about your husband. I've done that. It's not to demean, I've demeaned. It's not to disrespect, I've disrespected. But you see, I think as Pastor Pauline said, these things has taken years. We've been married for 30 years. Looking at that number. So maybe at some point also you demeaned. Maybe you disrespected. But it is coming to that point of asking for forgiveness and knowing that God is able to change.
So I think just to add on that, Pastor Connie, to somebody who is listening and they are at that position, I think one of the greatest things is self betrayal. People can betray you and you'll be okay with that. But when you betray yourself, it becomes really hard. And the quickest way back to deal with self-betrayal is self-forgiveness. Don't wait for people to forgive you. Those you have talked to about your husband or your wife, begin by forgiving yourself. Because you're the one who has betrayed yourself. So the only quickest way to go around it is to forgive yourself. When you forgive yourself and you're convinced that your husband or your wife has forgiven you as well, the rest of the people will forgive you when they see what you're now projecting to them. We both can teach people how to treat us by the way we treat ourselves. Because they'll be expecting you to behave in a certain way because you talked about him or talked about her. And if you wait, you will wait forever. So we are the ones who help them to see a new chapter in our lives.
I think also, as we're talking about how to turn this around, we must also come to the point of realization that it starts with the individual. And I must get another information where I was allowing a negative information. And that's where, because most of the time, sometimes we talk about people be strong, be courageous, fight on, but we forget the person whom we are telling to fight on. And that's where you say the word of God and prayer. And some like the fellowship where somebody go, where you can find accountability group. It's very, very important, because right now, when we talk about those things, talking about love. Love is patient. When you talk about love is kind. Now, when you're telling me kind, most of the time, sometimes I see this fruit of the spirit is they grow in the contradictory of the situation that I'm trusting God for. You tell God to somebody to love and somebody's unloving. That environment to grow that fruit is very opposite of what I was expecting. Now that person need to be strengthened. I cannot, the strength that is, you always persevere and endure is the word of God and His prayer. So as much if you're going to turn this, you cannot forget to put, if you put God out of this, you really can't be
prayer, word of God.
Actually, maybe to add on that, because obviously what you have said, looking at the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 13, the love chapter. Now, I remember when we had struggled those years, I remember there was a time I was praying and fasting. And I was praying and fasting, pushing the blame to my wife. So actually, I was a reporter to God on what my wife was doing. And I remember that time, I asked God to give me a word, and the word that God gave me was 1 Peter chapter 3. That's, if I don't honor my wife, then my prayer will be hindered. So I wanted 3 days of prayer and fasting here, only to be reviewed by a scripture. And I remember one thing I said when I read the 1 Corinthians chapter 13, the love chapter. If you look at it, it's loving and even being kind without expecting a return. And you know what I said? I said, I will love it. I will do what is supposed to be done in this house, and I will not expect a return. It was hard. So I said, if I realize the house needs to be clean, I'll clean. If I realize we need to cook, there will need to be food, I'll cook. And I will do things. And I didn't tell her. I said, if God have rebuked me on this way, I will do things in this house without expecting a return. Not knowing that it ended up working on me.
And if I can add, it changed me as well. Because I don't know what, maybe you know him, when he was not born again, he was out there in the world. He was a very worldly man.
Actually, there's somebody I talked to about 2 weeks ago who told me they still struggle to separate the Bonnie they knew in Greece and the Bonnie they know in UK. And I told them, you better shift because that changed.
Change has come. So, what happened is that he started transforming slowly. So the aggression stopped. He was very kind towards me, wanting to know how I'm doing before, you know. So, and then I started seeing a different man. And that also changed me. I stopped being defensive. I was always defensive. I wouldn't say anything because I don't know how he's going to react. I wouldn't say anything because I don't know whether he's going to shout or whatever. And then that also changed me as well. He would say sorry even when I knew I'm the one who was on the wrong. And he would say sorry even when it is me who is meant to be saying sorry. And that, with time, changed both of us. So when we say that it's, start with yourself, I have seen it practically in my own home. So he started changing. He didn't even say anything. He just started changing everything, and like I would see a different man, and that also changed me in how I approach him, how I dress him, how I see him, you know. And before we knew that, we now we take forever before we argue.
Well, actually, to be honest with you, at that time, I would sometimes I would be quiet. I would say, "I'll not speak to you." And unfortunately, my wife has a rating of silence.
It's no more.
I know to be quiet. So I'll say, "I'll not speak to you." And in the beginning, we'll even go for 2 weeks. They're not speaking to each other, staying in the same house. And thank God, those years we didn't have a child. So because the children would be very, very affected if it was going on like that. But then it went from 2 weeks to 1 week, 1 week to 2 days, to 2 days to 1 day. Right now, I don't know, it can't take even seconds. Yes, because we understand each other. But to be honest with you, I know.
Now we laugh at
the things.
Wow.
That used to be such a big deal.
And I think you nailed it actually, because you are in that situation that actually you're asking the question how that can be turned around. And I really like the way it is started by you and not looking at the other person. And you are doing actually touch the Pastor Geraldine. And actually that we are talking about the change we are looking for in families that they are feeling they are on the opposite side.
And actually when you look at that, another thing that maybe I did. Obviously, she had her own weakness. I started amplifying her strength, looking at the positive thing that she brings into her life. So that really helped in terms of because the more I focused on what she did not do, I was feeling very, very frustrated. But the more I focused on her strength, it kind of, because what you amplify. Or what you focus on, I said in the beginning, is that which grows. So, and I realize actually now, she's a wonderful wife that God has given me. And with the more you appreciate her, even what she brings on board, you begin to appreciate. Right now, even before I do anything, I have to consult. It may sound funny, but before, I never consulted. It's catch me when you can.
Wow.
The bus is gone. So,
you know what I love about that, Pastor Bonnie? Because there's somebody here who could be thinking about, I need a new partner or spouse for me to have a new marriage. And actually, you're just talking about the same people who have a new marriage because of things they noted and they were willing to address. You get what I'm saying? And I really like that because most of us here sometimes you feel I'm on the edge right now. I don't believe that anything can happen. And I believe because as we said, God hates divorce. And I believe if God hates divorce, God has a way to empower us. And He empowers us not necessarily prayers alone, but for us to address the issue and address it in a biblical manner, and then we will get to the destination that you're in right now. That is awesome.
I think when the Bible says we walk by faith, not by sight, and we are them that call those things that be not as though they are. I think what Pastor Bonnie is saying is very important, that you have to call value before it manifests. You call value by speaking into it. Abraham's name was changed from Abraham to Abraham. And every time he was called, even though he did not have a child, that calling is what brought eventually the manifestation of that promise. And I believe the partner you've been given, God has bestowed a lot of potential in them. And it is our responsibility to unlock. And we unlock by calling and speaking them into being. So you speak goodness out of them. You speak of value and capacity in them. When you start speaking those things, it not only moves them, but God opens their eyes to begin to see possibilities.
And it's a spiritual dimension.
I'm thinking about it.
Treats itself.
Yeah, that's very true. Because I'm thinking about it even with God Himself. Christ is a groom. We are the bride. There was tension between us and Him. but he had to use himself as a vessel to win us to himself, so that he could restore this marriage. He allowed himself, like Pastor Bonnie, and he said, I'm the one who is going to sacrifice myself. There are some things that I would choose not to do or to do so that I can win this bride again. And that's exactly what he did with us. So when it begins with us, then we can restore the relationships that are broken. Right?
So work on yourself.
Yeah, and actually, when it is, especially when it is not only man. For example, maybe somebody is listening to this and say, "Did you hear what Pastor said?" It is men who die first. It can be, you might be the one who is more convicted to do it. But I think anybody, if all of us begin to change, without necessarily looking at the behavior of the spouse, God has a way of working.
That's right.
We have been given the ministry of reconciliation. And I think if we could look at that in our marriages, be quick to reconcile, be quick to bring healing and restoration, then we will not have a lot of wasted energy on negativity and destruction.
Amen. I pray that our actions, how we respond to each other, will be a trigger of dormant virtues that are within us, that have never been activated, and that will always come by how we respond, how we treat people. I believe as we bring this to a close, there's somebody who was saying that there is a love bank. And there is where you keep on, when you continue doing good things, it will become a deposit, and it will become a deposit. But if you continue to do nasty things, it will go to a withdrawal mode. And even when you feel people have divorced, is when their love bank has actually been depleted. It has become actually, and I pray that will not happen, because every day that comes, we have opportunity to put something in our love bank, and we keep on building and building. Amen. Thank you so much. That was awesome. We bless the Lord. I believe that you have had a good time, and I believe what you have been able to share here, you'll find it beneficial, and you'll find some nuggets that you can use to turn around your marriage. And even if your marriage is still good, we believe it can become better. So this is out of experience over 30 years, 20 years, 18 years. And I believe that you can stand on the shoulder of our experiences and actually learn what we have learned through the experience and many years as pastors, and be able to employ it in your marriage and become better and better. Thank you once again for just being here and trusting here in this series that it can impact your marriage in a grateful way. Otherwise, God bless you and have a great time. God bless you.
Marriage Talk.